never rests.
Counting careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
Good morning. Good morning. It's the Georgia Show in the AM. Excuse me. Good gracious. So, coming off of a couple plane rides, I seem to always get the sniffles off of plane rides. But hey, we're back. It's been a few days. Happy New Year to everybody. It's our first show of the new year. Holidays kind of threw the schedule off a little bit, and we will be back on normal Sunday night, Tuesday, Thursday, Bark After Dark on Monday, all of that stuff starting next week. But here we are, me and Palmer with you this morning to talk about all the stuff that has gone on for Georgia since that, squeaky, nip and tuck game in the Orange Bowl. Georgia barely got by in that one. And we're ready to talk about kind of what has gone on since, which is a lot of NFL draft declarations and a couple of portal entries. And there's still more to go. We still got a lot more to cover and a lot more to talk about in the coming days. So, but Palmer, now that you're back home from Miami, what's the word?
Yeah, like you said, it's just been a lot of paying attention to this draft stuff and keeping guys on social media alerts, and just it's the wait and see type game. We feel good about kind of our gut feelings on most of these guys, but none of it is official until it's official, and so it's adjusting the scholarship count. It's getting all those stories ready to roll, and that can happen at any point. It can happen when you're at the grocery store. It can happen when you're watching college basketball. It can happen during a college football playoff game. So like you, it's been a little chaotic, but I think that both of us, we saw that Georgia game on Saturday. Getting the days all mixed up here now. Saw that game on Saturday, watched the games on Monday, and I don't know about you, Jake, but I certainly walked away feeling like, I understand why Georgia did not make the college football playoff. I still felt like they were one of the best four teams, and I certainly feel that way after having watched those games. I feel like, and I put it in Rest and React on Sunday. After watching Georgia, Florida State, folks were reminded why this Georgia Bulldogs team was one of the best four teams in the country all year, number one team in the country all year. Just a little bit surprising to see, not all too surprising, but, to see them lose by 3 points and miss out on a shot at a national championship. I'm really glad to see that we're going to a 12-team playoff here.
Well, I'm not glad for the 12-team playoff. I still hate it, but that's neither here nor there. What is that Georgia?
Would you rather it stay at 4?
Yeah, for sure. But again, that's neither here nor there. That's a deeper conversation. I hate the idea of 12-team playoffs and a bunch of access, and the idea that you could drop a game to rest people and all that stuff. Like, I like the 14 playoff better. I'll be fine with the 12-team playoff, but it's just we're never going to be satisfied. It's just not going to happen. Now the NCAA tournament had 64 teams in at one time, and then they had to add 4 more too. So at some point we're going to end up with too many.
To me, and we won't get too deep into this conversation, but to me, I think that at 4, you are leaving out national championship caliber teams. At 12, that occasionally 12, 13.
Sometimes we haven't been able to. Sometimes we haven't been able to fill. Most of the time, we haven't been able to fill the 4 up with national championship caliber teams.
Yeah,
because there's been an absolute, pumping of great proportions in most of these 14 playoffs. 30-0 type stuff.
And that is right. I might be a prisoner of the moment in the fact that we saw 2 really good teams, or 2 really good games on Monday night, and that there was a really good team.
And that's all. And this year, you're right. I totally believe it. This year, 100%. 12-team playoff would have been great this year, but you can't do it one year, not the other, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
It's almost like it's almost like if you settled for 6 or 8, 8 probably would work better than 6, but 6 you can still work in the buys there. It's almost like if you had that, that's probably the happy medium there between too little with 4, which I see as a flawed system because you have 5 power conferences, and obviously you're not going to have that going forward, but 5 power conferences that don't overlap enough to truly know which one is deserving of being left out, which one maybe is deserving of getting 2 teams in.
And
I
that's
feel
my
like
problem
4
with
was
the
a flawed
playoff in
number.
general. My problem with the playoff in general is we will never have NFL level overlap to truly enjoy a playoff and all of that stuff. But rather than let's hop off the rabbit trail here for a little bit. Brock Bowers announces yesterday that he's leaving. That is 100% expected, but obviously you look back and you think about Georgia history, and you think about, I mean, listen, I've said it on the show before. Georgia did not win a third straight national championship with Brock Bowers being the guy. I still think, if you ask me, I still think he's the greatest Bulldog ever. I really do. I think he's the greatest Bulldog ever in terms of he was the best player or one of the 2 or 3 best players on 2 national championship teams and one that I believe is the best team in the country. I mean, I'm not going to go throw a hissy fit on Twitter like some of the Florida State guys are doing. Guys, you're not changing anything and you're just embarrassing yourself. Okay. So cool that crap out. You're not helping anybody's cause when you do that. But I think Georgia's the best team in the country. I think Brock Bowers is the best player on the best team in the country for arguably the 3rd straight year. And, position, the way he turned that into a premium position within Georgia's offense, I think in my mind, and listen, not everybody has to agree. I know some people are going to come in here and say Herschel and all that stuff, and that's great. Herschel was awesome. Brock Bowers, to me, is the greatest Georgia football player, at least in my lifetime, and I think ever.
Well, and you were on that train before this season, and I think that this season only added to that, the impact that he had in limited time, more limited time than he had, the previous 2 years playing in just 10 games as opposed to 15 the last 2. His stats weren't all that far off. And the fact that what we saw in that 3-game stretch that I guess it started with UAB and then Auburn, Kentucky. Yeah, that
Yeah,
that
right
would
in
make
there.
sense. Yeah, UAB, Auburn, Kentucky. I mean, that Auburn game was just unbelievable. The way that he took over and almost single-handedly, won Georgia that game. If it's, not for him, I don't know that we're talking about, Georgia as one of the best 4 teams in the country or even in consideration for a college football playoff spot. But yeah, I mean, just unbelievable to see that. And then, obviously incredibly disappointing for everyone. I mean, I think if you're just a, casual observer watching one of the best players in the country go down with that injury midseason and have to miss time was disappointing. But then to see the way that he came back from it was just unbelievable. And I feel very confident in saying that he was not 100%. Came back in 26 days. Kirby said that, he came back to give Georgia its best chance at making a national championship. The games that they had to play with Ole Miss being a top 10 team and Tennessee, a tough road test, and then eventually an SEC championship game. Those 3 that he played in after the injury, Georgia needed 19. And they had him, but not 100% number 19. And it would have been interesting to see. But, all things aside, Brock Bowers, I think that you definitely have a case for, him as the greatest Georgia player of all time.
And then on top of that, I mean, Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter, Marius Mims, Tyke Smith, Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint, Dejan Edwards, Kendall Milton, and Lab McConkey have all declared for the NFL draft. None of those a big surprise. I think Georgia was hoping that it could hold on to as many of Bullard, Tyke Smith, and Lab McConkey as it could. Ultimately, all three guys end up moving on. I think all three. I think all of those. I think Georgia's well equipped to handle all of those situations. But what it also has going on here now, Palmer, is that there is 48 hours left, or less than 48, hours left in this transfer portal window for Georgia. And Georgia had one enter last night in Julian Humphrey. We've got some very updated news over at DawgsHQ. Run on over there and check it out. It's Rusty posted this morning. It's scoop. It's not something we're going to share here on a free platform. It's something that is for our members over at DawgsHQ. You get that 1 month, $1. Check us out. But ultimately, Julian Humphrey, after flirting with the portal, then we reported that basically saying he was coming back, and then now is basically saying he's entering the portal.
No, basically about saying that he was coming back.
Yeah,
he tweeted out, I'm coming back.
So where does that take Georgia? Yeah, said he wasn't. Said he wasn't leaving. Did the same thing as Daniel Harris. So, obviously, I think if Georgia were to lose both of those guys, Daniel Harris and Julian Humphrey, it'd be a much bigger deal than losing one of those guys. But at the end of the day, I know Georgia would like to hold on to both. Palmer, looking at that, how much of a strain does that put on Georgia in 2024? Julian Humphrey's not in the portal as of yet, but if he does as he says he's going to do and enters, what's going on?
Yeah, obviously they're playing a numbers game with the scholarship distribution, and as things stand, they are 2 over the 85, the allotted 85. If my numbers are correct, and they've got two guys that have very, what we think are probably pretty clear draft decisions to make: Cedric Van Pran and Xavier Truss. Both those guys could come back, but both those guys have played a lot of football in red and black, and so would absolutely make sense to see them go on, move on to the next level. And if those two guys do, then you're looking at Georgia and hitting that 85 number. But there's, like you said, 48 hours to and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jake. They don't have to be at 85 for the spring.
No.
Because you've got 6 kids that aren't going to be enrolling early, that are going to be summer entries. They've got
6 or 7.
A handful of kids that are not going to be early enrollees. So, they're in no danger of, things can be worked out and arranged and all that, but they're in no danger of, being in trouble this spring. Like, hey, we've got to get rid of guys right now. Ultimately that's a problem down the road. And there is another portal period, a shorter one. Believe this one, the spring one's going to be 15 days as opposed to the 30 that we saw for this one. But so there's probably still going to be guys that enter the portal, after the spring, and Georgia may not be done taking guys from the portal or adding guys, to its roster. So, this roster still is very much in flux. But, I think that we have a lot clearer of a picture, now than we did, just a couple of days ago, a couple weeks ago, on who's going to be in Athens and who's not going to be.
Junkyard Dog, listen, I don't know if you heard this or not. Brock says he is coming back. I'm joking. I'm
don't do that to us, Jake. Don't do that to
us. 5 seconds of time to ruminate on that. No, he did announce last night that he's leaving. That was a decision I'm pretty sure was made like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think Brock just kind of wanted the specific time to, wait till the time was right to announce it. And listen, I think Georgia's going to have some good news here in the next few days too, with guys returning. I don't know if anybody will announce anything. Nazir Stackhouse told us after the Orange Bowl that he was going to wait until he was going to have something out by January 3rd. today's the day for him. So, and right now I would lean towards him coming back. Warren Brinson is another guy. Tate Ratledge is another. I think, you talk about line of scrimmage guys. You love having 4th, 5th, 6th-year guys up front. And, I don't think Georgia's done adding from the portal. I don't think Georgia's done losing to the portal. I think there probably still going to be so much stuff. But I would say this, Palmer, and this is something that Georgia fans can maybe take some solace in, okay? I think it's mostly over. All right, I think most of it is behind you. I mean, when you start talking about all the guys that have declared and all the guys that could enter the portal or seem, all the guys that seem to make sense to enter the portal, I think most of that is over. Now, is there going to be another 2 or 3 guys? Probably so. And is Georgia going to take another 2 or 3 guys? Very, very possible. But ultimately, that's where we're at. And listen, it's been a wild 30 days, okay? 31 days now. It has been a wild time. And we've had it covered for you over at DawgsHQ. But I tell you, man, it's I'm not one of these people that this has got to change. It sucks. I kind of enjoy it because the past 30 days have flown by with all the work we've had to do. I enjoy having the work to do. But listen, I know it sucks for you guys to see guys leave and come, but don't be a prisoner of the moment and understand that guys are going to leave your program when they're not getting a chance to play. And about 95 to 98% of these guys that have left Georgia's program are non-starters who aren't even who you may think they're a shoe-in, right? I mean, you guys may think that, hey, listen, we want to keep this guy around till year 4, and maybe he can start then. It's not the way the sport works anymore. Stetson Bennett's, Carson Beck's, even Brock Vandegrift, who did transfer, but only after being in the program for 3 years. Those guys don't grow on trees anymore.
Well, and the other thing is that people, if these guys stick around for much longer, in a lot of these cases, you're taken away from what you can bring in the future. It's, you're taken away from, fans would be saying, well, why can we, only take 23 kids in this signing class? Well, it's because you've got 5 guys that are hanging around, not, just eating into the scholarship count and not playing and not contributing and, not really ever looking like they might, and so that's the, that's the flip side of the transfer portal. And, again, I completely agree with you there that experience is, a great thing to have in college football these days. And you would love to be having a bunch of, 4th and 5th year guys that eventually earn their opportunities. But, Georgia has brought in several talented young guys that, we're seeing get opportunities in their first or second seasons because, the door is opened for, it's basically a talent and ceiling versus, experience debate that you have with the transfer portal here. And, would you rather have a bunch of guys that are on the older side and be limited in the number of young guys that you can take, or the flip side? And, that means, do you want to take a ton from the portal, or do you want to build through recruiting? Do you want to, rely on the guys that are have been in your program for a little while, or do you want to, build, and look new every year? And that's the interesting part of the transfer portal.
All right, folks. Well, listen, come on over to DawgsHQ, $1 for 1 month. And also, I would be remiss if I did not bring up our partners over at Prize Picks. All right. Now, these guys, promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, you get a deposit match up to $100. And they've already got their national championship picks up. And listen, I'm fired up about this national championship game. I really am. No SEC team in. No fans, unlike previous years, trying to ride Georgia's coattails or Alabama's coattails or anything like that. This is Washington, Michigan. I like the newness of it. I like the way that it all looks.
New colors. Yeah, we got purple in the national championship game, like real big time purple, not like the LSU accent purple that they don't really. We had purple last year, Jake.
Yeah, we did. I forgot about that, but hey, that was also an accent purple. They were in white purple. They didn't have like their heavy purple on. But again, like you said, new colors. Got a little blue in the national championship game. as well, which is something we have not had in the national championship game the past 2 years. So, so a little bit of that Navy in there. Palmer, what do you like in this game? I'm a big fan of. Listen, I'm done. I'm done taking unders on Michael Penix. Give me the over. Give me the over on Michael Penix.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, looking at the way that they played that game on Monday, you certainly like that, and I mean, I might be willing to go. God, I mean,
And if you're listening to this on a podcast, it's over 297 and a half on Michael Penix.
Yeah, and that's a really good number on McCarthy there too, 200. It's a Washington defense that's susceptible to giving up some plays and bend but don't break. So I don't know there, and I think that if you were going to go with the more on Penix, I mean, you just got to shoe in more on Rome Odunze, as well. And so, we're talking about a lot of Washington guys, but I think this Michigan team is certainly capable of competing as well. And I would take more 18.5 rushing yards for McCarthy.
Yeah, that feels like stealing a little bit.
Yeah, that's a low number. I wish I could get that Blake Corum number a little bit lower than 100, but a kid that's certainly capable of topping it. I absolutely would take anytime touchdown here with Rome Odunze. Rushing and receiving scores.
I love the Blake Corum over there because of how Texas especially how Texas just consistently had success running the ball. I mean, I honestly think that listen, I didn't get a chance to pay attention closely to that whole game, but based on how it was going early on, I felt like if Texas kind of committed to the run game, they'd have won that game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, and I think the clock management of this game will be interesting because you've got a team that, it looks like if they could air it out every play, they might score every play in Washington, and then a team in Michigan that plays really good defense, but also relies on its run game a little bit. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game to watch, for sure. And Prize Picks certainly makes it an interesting way to watch. Like you said, 100% promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, 100% deposit match up to $100, and a great way to get involved. Here, if you haven't done it already, first deposit, 100% deposit match up to $100. DAWGS. Jake and I have had a lot of fun doing it this year, and you can have a lot of fun doing it in this final game of the year.
Absolutely. Georgia fans, want to leave you with a little stat I shared with folks yesterday over at DawgsHQ, because I've seen a lot of this on Twitter. I've seen a lot of this on social media in general. Man, Georgia needs to get dudes on the defensive line like Michigan, right? So Michigan, Alabama, and then Georgia, Alabama. I know the transitive property is not there, but let's look at something real quick. Georgia, gave up 41 carries for 114 yards against Alabama. Michigan, with 19 yards of bad snaps factored in on back-to-back plays, gave up 43 carries, 171 yards against Michigan over 4 a carry. So let's tap the brakes, get excited about 2024 because – after watching that Florida State game, which didn't tell me a lot, but except for the fact that the Bulldogs got back up for it, those of you that are listening to this because you're Georgia fans, you're gonna pull from one of the best teams in the country again next year. That's just the way it is. They're going to be extremely good. You got Carson Beck back, and nothing was ever going to kind of match the positive. Nothing on the negative side was ever going to come close to matching or really even offset and getting Carson Beck back. So take that with you today. We'll be back later on this week with a little Bark After Dark and another Georgia show. But for this one, that's all we got. Y'all take it easy.